Welcome back, everybody, to Rantpocalypse Talks, HBO's amazing new TV show, Westworld. I'm Justin.
Hey, I'm Kelly, and we are a mother and son. Point at me first, and then I point at you. Actually, it should be mother and son, whichever side you happen to be on. Team that we like to talk about TV shows, and Westworld is one of our new favorites.
We do love talking about Westworld, even though we missed talking about Westworld last week. We are so sorry. I apologize. It was all my fault because we've taken on so many different shows, and I've taken on a new job. Lame.
I know, and then life.
Yeah, in life. Life
Yes.
does get in the way. So really sorry about that. We both loved Dissonance Theory. I thought it was a fantastic episode. I just wanted to point out a few quick things because it was a really good episode.
Yes.
I really loved the Man in Black meeting Armistice. I thought that was very interesting. The fact that she's got the tattoo, the blood arroyo, all that coming together. I loved whenever they break Eschaton out of the prison and you got the exploding cigars. I thought that was fantastic. Teresa and Ford's convo about the new narrative, that was creepy as fuck. Ford's definitely got a god complex. Super, uber,
huge.
duper creeper.
And every time, or every episode, we see it more and more and more, like how much he loves to just stop things, with his hand, and then start it right back up, like, fuck all y'all. Look at me.
But who wouldn't? Because I would
know.
be doing it all the time. You're like, you stop, you stop, you stop. Yeah,
It's true.
it would be fantastic. And I love that he called Teresa out for taking Bernard to the bone zone. So, oopsie. Billy and Logan shootout. I thought that was fantastic in last week's episode. And then Maeve and Eschaton's convo at the very end with Maeve realizing that this is a completely different reality that she's living in, and this one doesn't even matter. So let's just go ahead,
and
make out and have sexy time while people are shooting at us.
and
So
while wiping blood all over my
yes,
face.
exactly. So Dissonance Theory, fantastic episode. I had a whole boatload of questions from that episode, but we're gonna get into them with this episode that we're talking about. And HBO loves to make me say words that I do not know how to say because this episode title is Contrapasso.
Hey, nice, good job.
Was that good?
Yeah, because I can't say it, so how would I know if you're wrong?
Yeah, very true. Very, very
and what
true.
does that mean?
It's from the Latin word contra and patior, I guess. I don't know, patior, which means suffer the opposite. It refers to the punishment of souls in Dante's Inferno by a
Oh.
process either resembling or contrasting with the sin itself. So very, very, very interesting. I love the fact that they've got these episode titles because Dissonance Theory, there was a whole rabbit hole of that one. I would highly suggest going to the Westworld Reddit because it is fantastic. And I suggest it, but I also warn you that you will be going down rabbit holes for hours upon hours upon hours. So if you don't have a job, it's great. If you do have a job, your employers might be a little bit ticked off about
Just
that.
don't let them catch you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Clear those cookies. Take away that search history. Do all those things, that people do whenever they don't want people
Do
to find out.
A
that they're
better
watching
job than Bernard and Teresa did of hiding, going to the voting zone. Yeah.
Yes, definitely do a better job than that. So let's get into our favorite moments from this week's episode and then discuss the larger question that I have to pose to you in this week's recap of Westworld Episode 5. And that is, just have this in the back of your head.
Okay.
Is William the Man in Black?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
I mean, that is a huge question, and yes, we'll discuss that. Let me just say, before we get started too far into this, they tried to kill me at physical therapy today for my back, so
Yeah.
I don't, drugs are bad, kids, but I got these from the doctor, muscle relaxers and pain meds.
Well, drugs are bad, and then some drugs are good because they make you feel happy and your body feel good. So
Well, I'm
it's all right.
good
Forgive
enough
you.
to be able to sit here and do this on camera, but I'm just going to look pretty. I'm just going to go, oh, yes. Actually, I don't know about the pretty part, but mostly I'm going to just answer what you have to say.
Okay, well, I have a lot of favorite
Okay,
moments.
good.
I take many notes when I'm watching these episodes because there's definitely two ways to watch Westworld. There's the one way where you just watch it and you're just letting it unravel in front of you,
Right.
and you're totally fine with that. And the other way of watching it is you take a crap ton of notes, and you're going down rabbit holes, exploring the names of the characters, what that true meaning is. You're exploring, all different things that have to do with the show Westworld, and that's one of my favorite things to do, and that's why I have a bunch of questions to ask you here in a little bit. But I do have my favorite moments. I call it episode 5 awesome stuff. Some of the favorite things: absolutely love Pariah. I love the introduction of this city. I thought it was a very, very cool, gritty, nasty city. It reminded me of some things from the Westworld movie, as well as Future World, the movie, which you can go back and go watch those. I think you should definitely watch those if you're a big fan of the Westworld TV show. But it reminded me of Medieval World from Westworld. And I know that it's still set in a Western setting and everything, but I guess just like
the decadence
the decadence, the feasts that they were having, obviously the
orgy.
sexy time orgies that were going on definitely reminded me of medieval stuff. I think that Game of Thrones is to blame for that, because we see so much sex in Game of Thrones that now we're like, medieval times is all about going to the bone zone.
Right, and I think they probably outdid Game of Thrones in this orgy. And I will say nothing else about not seeing any peen, because I saw a lot of peen this episode and some pretty good close shots of it. And some of those dudes should definitely stand tall.
I love the fact that they contrasted the naked gold lady booby shots and vagine shots with the penis shot that was in the very next scene with Elsie and everything. I was like, hey,
equal time.
Equal time. Yeah, and I'm sure all the ladies and the men that like that were like, it's about damn time.
And they were like, damn, dude.
I think they were. I definitely think that his talents were going to waste pouring people's drinks and whatnot. That's for sure. Some of our other favorite moments was the Man in Black killing Lawrence. I thought that was a very interesting twist as they were on the road to get to the middle of the center of this maze. And this whole time I'm thinking he's going to bring Lawrence with him the entire time. They're such good buddies.
Yes, and he's an integral part of getting there, and apparently not.
No, and it was really cool just finding out that the fact that these hosts actually need blood transfusions and it keeps them alive, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to see the insides of these hosts, because there was a later conversation that we really, really enjoyed between the Man in Black and Ford, who now we find out that his name is actually Robert Ford, which I was telling you just beforehand that Robert Ford was also the name of the guy that killed Jesse James, which I think is a very interesting coincidence. Just because we're in a Western TV show.
It's a fun little tie-in.
Yeah, and I would also highly recommend watching the movie The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. I'm sorry, that title is a mouthful. It is one of my favorite Western movies of all time. It stars Casey Affleck. I believe Brad Pitt is in it as well. Really, really underrated film. Didn't make squat at the box office, but it's so damn good. But
you had me at Brad Pitt.
Yes, well, and Casey Affleck is great as well. Whenever they met, I thought it was very interesting that he kind of turns Teddy on at the very end of that conversation he says that one little line to Teddy, and Teddy perks back up when he said, "We must look back and smile at perils past." It's got to be like a line from Shakespeare or something, because there's so many lines on this show from Shakespeare, from other plays and stuff like
fancy literature that we don't know how to quote.
Yeah, exactly. But I loved whenever he called him out. The Man in Black called him out and he said, "Am I getting any closer, Robert?" I thought that was very interesting, that not only did he know who he was, like he knew who Robert Ford was, which is very crazy.
I don't think it's crazy at all, because I think with as long as the Man in Black has been a part of this park, he has to know who he is. I think that there's a huge tie-in between the two of them that we're going to find out eventually. Whether we'll do it this season or not, I have no idea how that's going to work. But I just think that they have a past.
Yes, I definitely think that they have a past. Whenever he was talking about Arnold and that Arnold almost took this place with him, but thanks to me, he didn't.
Right.
Do you think that refers to him buying the park or being a big part of the individuals, Delos, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
that purchased the park, that kept it funded and
Right.
everything. Because while we're talking about this, I mean, yes, let's just get a little bit more into the question of, is William slash Billy, is he actually the Man in Black in a younger form?
Yeah.
Obviously, different timeline.
And the more I watch, the more I think that theory is quite possibly true. Because
Yeah.
obviously we were on two different timelines in this. Just because of Lawrence
But
alone.
but were we? See, and believe me, the first couple of times I watched it, I'm really into this different timelines,
Hmm.
especially in this episode, because that was another one of our favorite things was the introduction of El Lazo, and how cool of a twist that was to see that Lawrence is actually El Lazo, and that's who William and Logan and Dolores are all going to try and
Right.
find.
Right.
But there was a part whenever Ford was having a conversation and he was talking to Dolores. It was that part in the middle of the episode. He said something along the lines of, "You tried to destroy the park," because that's what she tells him, that Arnold says that she's going to help him destroy the park. And he says, "But you didn't."
Right.
But long story short, he says to her that he loves having these conversations with her because she's the only one left. She's the only one still around that can have these
Hmm.
conversations with her. Believe me, I'm all about the two timelines. I'm all about the fact that William slash Billy is
The same person.
some is the same person as the Man in Black,
Hmm.
but Lawrence is there in both, have to be there in both timelines, right? And so that means that Dolores and El Lazo slash Lawrence, they're both in those separate timelines, which would mean that they would have been around when Ford was around as well. So, and Lawrence is still there when the Man in Black is having the conversation with Ford. So that, to me, it makes it harder to believe these alternate timelines, even though I want to, because there was another scene in this episode that also threw me off, and I know it was one of your favorite parts, is whenever Felix, he's doing some coding trying to get the bird to come back to life. He gets the bird to come back to life, and Maeve is there, and
Yeah.
and and I, mean, I know you have some more with that, but it was interesting how they played that out of order in this episode. Like, they're extremely fucking with us,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Because, okay, whenever we first see, I called him Tweedledee and Tweedledum at first because I didn't know
Yes.
what
Yes.
Felix's name
Hmm.
was. The ginger guy is
Hmm.
definitely like, a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But whenever they're first working on them, when we see them in the earlier stages of
Hmm.
this episode,
Hmm.
earlier parts, they're having a competition of who can fix
Whatever part quicker.
Maeve up quicker.
Hmm.
And then we see later on in the episode, whenever she's rolled back in, and Felix is like, it's her again, or something like that. And the first thing that the ginger guy does is take the bullet out. They just did that, like at the beginning of the episode, because whenever episode 4 ends, Dissonant Theory ends, that's when Maeve and Eschaton are in the shootout, right? And
Well,
so we're
she
led,
she had already taken the bullet out herself. She had
but
taken it
but
out
they,
before they do another shootout.
yeah,
So
and see, but that's where it's
it's
confusing, right?
well, yes, it's obviously confusing, but I mean, it's like how many times on these loops does she get shot in that same spot in the gut?
Yes.
I don't even know how to hold a discussion with what you just said, though, because I mean, I had my theory, but now I have no idea. So I'm just
Well,
gonna.
well, no, I mean, because immediately, I mean, right as you're watching the episode, you're like, how did Lawrence get to El Lazo and
Hmm.
cleaned up so
Right.
quickly? Because it was just boom. It was like right after that scene.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my thought. I want to wrap up the is William the Man in Black, and the fact that whenever Logan and William are having a conversation and they're talking about basically buying this place out because the park is hemorrhaging money and
Right. Right.
and everything, does that mean they work for Delos?
Hmm.
And we see the comparing and contrasting of William. He's kind of turning black hat in this episode.
Right. right? In a couple of different, slowly but surely, just in each sequence, he gets a little further down the way as far as
Yes.
turning into a bad dude.
I think that another major point is his affinity for Dolores,
Hmm.
because I don't think that the Man in Black was raping Dolores. I don't think that he was doing anything like that. To me, it feels like what we're seeing is the incident about to play out. And I think, in my opinion, the incident is going to be one of the hosts killing Logan, that's what kind of almost nearly shut the park down and everything. And since William slash Billy is one of the VPs, he can still go on with the purchasing of Westworld
Right,
whenever Logan's out of the way. And I
right.
feel like whenever the incident occurs, I feel like Dolores, all of her sentient qualities are kind of wiped out and
Right.
wiped away. When I'm going through this, I'm thinking to myself that Dolores, she's not actually becoming as sentient as we think, like in the present time with Ford being an older man. I think that some part of Arnold's code is seeping through still,
Hmm.
even though Arnold died many, many years ago, 34 years to be exact. And so the Man in Black, aka Billy and
Okay.
William, is trying to get to the center of the maze so that way he can get her back to being
Okay.
sentient because he's
So
in love with her.
you argued
Against it and for it.
for it
I'm
exactly. Okay. So I
yeah.
mean, it's like yes. I mean, I'm totally I'm totally with you on that. That's what I feel. I feel like uh, she was becoming, where she had her own consciousness and
Yes.
early on, and they took that away. So yes, and she's hearing the voice, and she's trying to become that again. I
Yeah.
also feel like in the early stages of it, they did make it where the host could hurt the guests a lot more. That's
Yeah.
like when we see Teddy at first. No, it's not Teddy, but it's one of
Logan.
the, yeah. Well, it's one of the guests prior to Logan
Uh-huh.
that gets shot and nothing happens. And then by the time we get Logan and Billy in the picture,
Yeah.
then we see that, ow, shit, that hurts
Yeah.
when he gets shot. And he says, "Oh
Well, and
yeah,
Logan.
yeah, it's gonna hurt. I never said it wouldn't hurt. They just can't kill you."
Yeah. And Logan almost gets killed in this episode getting choked out.
Yes.
And that's something we've never seen the host do, no matter how horrible the Man in Black is
Hmm.
to them whenever we see him in what we think is the present day time.
I mean, I feel so strongly that this was in separate timelines. And did you see some of the weird things they did? Like, okay, at the very end scene, William is there with Lawrence and Dolores, and they're right there
Hmm.
in the train,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Sit down, have a drink. We've got a ways to go,"
Yeah.
and you see Dolores go up to the coffin.
Hmm.
The two guys are sitting back behind it
Yep.
at the beginning of the scene. They cut to her, and then when she looks back, they see that scene from a different direction to where the two guys were before, and they're not there anymore.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I know I
Yeah.
caught the fact that the maze was on the box, the
Yes.
nitro and
Yeah, that was
everything,
that was
but
super cool.
yeah.
But they
But that's
suddenly.
interesting though that they were gone.
So is she on some path to find Billy? I don't know.
Well,
A separate path.
I mean, I didn't catch that at all. It could be the fact that maybe she's seeing all these visions of Billy slash
Hmm.
William
Hmm.
because that was in the past.
Hmm.
And, she is doing all these things again because, we've already seen her have so many flashes of where
Right.
she sees something or it's the exact same thing. She's having a conversation with somebody and then all of a sudden it's the conversation all over again. Like I'm
Right.
pretty sure she was having a conversation, I think, with William, and it stopped and then it started back over again. And Maeve has had the same thing happen to
Right.
her. I have to go back and watch that because I didn't catch that they were gone after they were sitting in
Hmm.
that same place. That leads me to believe that she's just replaying these things, trying to still get to the center of the maze, even
Right.
though she's not really with them
Well, I mean, when
every
you
time.
and you think about like when she went to the basically the tarot card reader at the orgy,
Yeah.
and she took a card. She looks up, and suddenly it's herself that she sees there.
Yeah.
Then she looks back up and there's no one. She sees herself in crowds that are in the Day of the Dead
Yeah.
parades. And here's another question that I had about the alternate timeline and the
Mhm.
possibility that this was back when the Man in Black was young.
Yeah.
The hosts, if we're saying that this is like 30 years ago,
Yeah.
the hosts seem to be just as
Yes.
advanced, and
Yeah.
that part makes me go, well, how can that be?
Yeah, because the Man in Black was talking about the fact that he had opened them up whenever he was younger,
Hmm.
whenever his like first couple of visits, I guess, to the park. And yeah, if we are seeing an alternate timeline, and then again, this goes back to I want to believe it, then I have these
Hmm.
conflictions about it
Hmm.
because yeah, it just seems like if that is in the past, that yeah, they seem just as lifelike. They don't seem because we see, and whenever Ford has these conversations with
With that
the
old
old the old yeah, shall we drink to the
to
lady in
the
the
with the
white
white shoes,
shoes?
yeah,
Yeah.
over and together. That you got some
Take the
humdoozers of a story, dude. And you
yeah.
hear every time he blinks, it's shink,
Yeah,
shink.
exactly. Yeah, he definitely looks like somebody that if it
From
was alternate timelines and it was
30
30
years ago.
something years
Yeah.
ago, that he would yeah, he would be what we would see right now.
So
That's why it's just it's
yeah.
so much fun though. It is so
Yep.
much damn fun. I definitely think that, we are getting our minds played with. Jonathan Nolan was a part of Memento, and Memento is one of the craziest movies of its time. It's still crazy today. So we know that he definitely has the capacity to write something that will just be a complete mind fuck.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. A lot of people are saying that the Man in Black is William/Billy. So what do you
And
guys
that
think? Let
and
us
that
know in the comments below.
and that might be too easy at this point.
Exactly. Very interesting stuff. We love to hear all you guys' thoughts, theories, comments, speculation, brain dying.
Help us, please help
Yes,
us.
yes. Please, please help us. But we had a lot of fun chatting about Westworld and all of our random thoughts. I also will say, Dolores, you a badass.
She is
Absolutely love
a
that.
badass when because we did talk about this before we started recording, the fact that
Yeah,
she shoots from the hip
yeah,
and just smooth as all get out.
yeah.
But yeah, she's awesome. She doesn't want to be the damsel in distress anymore, and in whatever timeline it is, she isn't.
No, Evan Rachel Wood is killing it as
Oh my
Dolores.
God.
I was super pumped whenever she said that line. I was like, yes.
Hmm.
We're done. We're done chatting about Westworld. Let us know all your thoughts. If you're listening to this in podcast form, you can email us. It's rantpocalypse@gmail.com. Thanks again for joining us. Hope you have a fantastic day. Bye bye.
Bye.